Welcome to Catalyst Chats, where leaders spark ideas, share wins, and tackle people challenges that shape the future of work.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Catalyst Chats. I'm Lindsey Hammer, and today I am speaking with the one and the only Lynn Hazan. Lynn is president of Lynn Hazan Associates, and I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
If you wouldn't mind, I'd love it if you could share an introduction with our audience.
Well, today's a very special day because I'm wearing an outfit that on first glance you might say, Lynn, what are you doing this for? And I'll show you and I'll explain. So I'm just going to stand up right now.
Yes,
and
let us see the butterfly.
You see the butterfly, everybody?
Gorgeous.
So the butterfly is one of my favorite creatures because I love not only to see them in motion, but what is the essence of a butterfly? It's all about transformation. And I see the process of transformation on so many levels. For me, personally and professionally, and how I've grown Lynn Hazan Associates, how I work with talent, with candidates, to see a process that they go through from when they first register with my firm, and then I get them ready, literally, for the transformational process that they will go through when they get hired, hopefully, by my client. And the whole notion of transformation also reflects the world that we're living in at large today.
Totally.
Because there has been so much change, and yet by the same token, being authentic, having strengths, being able to be what I call a value add candidate to the client will never go out of style. And it's my job as a recruiter to recruit what I call best-in-class talent, ideally within the first 3 candidates.
Yes, your rule of 3. Yes, I love that. I think that's so well captured in the sense of there's so much change, and I think it can feel really chaotic, especially right now. And we're just living in this really interesting time. But to your point, how we deliver may change, but the importance of what we deliver and what we add value to will never change. And I think that's such a nice and simple way of really, it makes me feel at ease in a sense, you know, especially with all these conversations around what will work look like. Just really like that.
I'm glad you brought that up because I ask the question to my candidates all the time, who are you? Why should I hire you? Why should my clients hire? And actually, I do the same thing with my clients, not so much who are you, what do you do?
Yeah.
I like to dig deep is one of the concepts that I use when I look at that, look what I have, my shovel. I dig deep and I ask lots of questions. And that's part of my persona. I'm curious. And actually, it's also one of the traits that I look for in talent, whether they are students working as interns with my firm, candidates looking for jobs, and people saying, I have to keep learning because it's vital to existence and because it makes life interesting and fun for me as well.
Totally. I've always said, if I'm not learning, I'm dying.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully, you know, we'll keep that prototype image of who you are as an active learner, because the more the candidate adds value and is seen as a person who is interested and excited about contribution, then that person will always bring value. And actually, what I also see a lot of, and I hope companies hear this message, is that we learn really well with intergenerational support.
Yes.
For example, the motto of my intern program is, and I point to my intern, you teach me.
Yeah.
I teach you.
Absolutely.
We each other. We all learn together. And one of the marvels about having intergeneration staff at work is that there's knowledge and wisdom that the, quote, older employee can transfer down. And also with the younger talent, they might have more exposure and visibility, let's say with the latest tech tools. And the more we teach each other and recognize we all have different kinds of strengths, then there's that feeling of nurturing and of being able to help each other. And it's no surprise that mentor-mentee programs are flourishing right now.
Yes. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I love doing that because there's always an opportunity to give and get.
Yes, I agree. I think, Lynn, you just solved the world's problems. If everyone could take that mentality and just have a level of curiosity and willingness to learn and share and educate, we would be such such a better world altogether. And I think it's so important to stay curious and even question your own beliefs, your own bias, and understanding why you are thinking a certain way. And I think that hunger for knowledge drives a lot of us. I know that's something you and I have in common, and something that I know I always looked for in candidates, both as a recruiter and also as a hiring manager. I was more excited about that, I think, than someone coming in and having all of the information, because sometimes then they miss the curiosity and then they're going to hit a plateau. And yeah, we can all be learning from each other. I love that.
And what makes it so fascinating is that sense of mutual support. I'll give you an example because, and I'm sure the same thing with you, Lindsey, once you've been a recruiter for a while, you have a sense of what I call the intuitive focus.
Yes.
And because I dig deep on the client side and on the candidate side, and I ask a lot of questions for my clients, because guess what? Both clients and candidates are often too close to their own backgrounds and their own companies to be able to be objective. And I ask questions. Think of the journalist mantra, right? W5 plus H. Who, what, when, where, why, and then the how. So when I ask those kinds of questions, I have aha moments. This is great. And I have the exact same experience with my clients because my clients are too close to their own companies and their job descriptions.
Yes.
And then when I have, oh, this is great. Now I know what's going to be the differentiator in the talent you're looking to hire. And then what happens is, and I can give you an example, is when I interview a candidate, I go, yep, I'm going to place you. It just happened fairly recently. A candidate who had been major news broadcasting producer, he found me through a referral.
Okay.
And I got on the phone with him and I interviewed him. I said, you have amazing credentials. I'm going to place you. And I said to him, I don't know when and I don't know how. I'm going to place you. Guess what happened? 3 days after I got off the call, one of my long-term clients called.
That's wild.
Then we need to reorganize our communications department and we need to hire a director of communications. And they gave me the specs and I'm taking notes. And then I said, I have your candidate.
Yeah.
And people might say, Lynn,
Yeah, sure you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, come on, be real. I'm like, no. I said to them, I have your candidate. Now I've worked with
And within 3 days. That's wild.
Yeah, they called within 3 days of my interviewing this candidate.
I feel like you manifested that. You were like, I'm going to place you. And maybe 3 is your lucky number because you have the rule of 3 as well, which I want to come back to. But that's...
Well, it's a very good insight. Thank you. Well, you see, because I've learned along the way, and this is a critical factor for all talent, keep learning, keep growing, experiment. Where you make mistakes, learn fast. And then make sure that you contribute your knowledge, depth, and experience so that again, you come at it with a sense of experience. And what happens, because this client and I have worked together for 21 years, I know their culture. I know who they hire, how they hire. And when I said, I have your candidate, they hired him.
Yeah.
He's doing great.
That's awesome. That's such a great story because I feel like a lot of times, from what I've experienced, you find fantastic candidates and sometimes the role is just not open and you hold on to them and you continue that relationship. But 3 days, I would say, is the record of how quickly I've heard that happening when you have that find.
Well, I say to people, you never know when I'm going to get an email and I'm going to get a phone call. I'll give you another example. Yesterday, seriously, I got an email from a client. I had worked with that firm 10 years ago.
No.
And then all of a sudden, boom, like, oh, I love it. And it personifies my attitude about being the relationship and the storytelling recruiter.
Yes.
Because relationships are critical. I doesn't know the culture of my client. AI might give all these keywords and job specs, and candidates are going to spend all day going copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Yeah. But they don't know the company or the culture and how to position themselves as the candidate of choice.
Yes.
Now, when I talk to my clients and I talk to my candidates, we're like this. We're connected already. And that's when I say, I know you. I know my clients. I know my candidates. I'm going to place you. And lately, I've been reconnecting with candidates that I met like 25 years ago. And now they're looking again. It's like, of course I'm going to recommend you.
Yeah.
I placed you. You're
Yeah.
wonderful.
These full circle moments. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Totally, totally, totally. And it also says a lot about trusted relationships with myself and the candidate and myself as well. Because it's like, of course I remember what we did, how we did it. And those days are gone. On the other hand, what is so elemental for me is that I'll never forget when the .com era was there. I'll never forget this story. There was a Women in Communications event, and I went to that event. After, no one knew that this hiring company at that event had a value-added event to the program.
Okay.
And the head of HR had this huge set of booklets, this thick, and she was talking about all their job openings.
Wow.
I went up to her, introduced myself. I'd love to recruit for you. Yes. So I literally got a menu. I need 3 of these, 2 of these, 1 of
Wow.
these. And off I went.
That's why.
Now, that was a different time. We have a lot more tools and technologies. I will still say to my clients, because I know my talent and I know how to factor in the human factor when I talk to candidates. That makes a difference when candidates are interviewing with a robot.
Yeah. Well, something that's been so clear in my conversations with you, Lynn, is you're thinking about the bigger picture, right? You're thinking about the person. You're thinking about not just the role, but you're thinking about the team, the culture, the company. And I think it's easy in recruiting at times to unintentionally maybe put some blinders on, especially if you have a role that you've been working on for a while or that you know is going to be harder to fill, and start to just look at the role and just look at the candidate as someone to fill that role. And even if you find a fit at times, it may not always be the best person for the role when you lose sight of the bigger picture, which I'm impressed by how well you just kind of stay with your arms around that.
There's a lot of learning that goes on. And part of it is the trust factor with the client, digging deep to ask questions because they're not always easy.
Yeah.
For example, here's something that's amazing. When I think back during COVID, how many clients wanted to hire and candidates were scared to move.
Yep.
And they didn't want to change jobs.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing a lot of candidates whose jobs have been eliminated, supposedly being replaced by AI tools. What's going to happen in 2 years from now when those people need to be promoted and there's nobody there?
Yeah.
And companies really have to think hard and fast about the kind of humans who are going to be working in companies, because you can't run a company with robots and AI tools all the time. And you have to be authentic.
Yes.
And what I've seen with so many AI tools is that they're replaceable. If all these AI tools are saying the exact same thing, then we don't need them. And how is a human being going to make a difference in a business because they understand the business, the dynamics of people working together? And actually, what's interesting, now clients are saying, we want you back in the office.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
that's been an interesting shift. I don't think I've ever been more wrong about COVID in general. I was managing recruiting operations at the time for the entertainment and ads businesses for Amazon, and had a very large global team. And I remember getting the email from our leader, hey, tomorrow and the rest of the week, we're going to work from home. And
like that?
And a manager that reported to me came into my office and was like, hey, I know you've got a plan for how we're going to move all the interviews, but just curious, how long do you think this is going to last? And I bet we'll be in the office again next week. And then once we went fully remote, I don't think there's any way that Amazon will, move to bringing everybody back in office. And I like to pride myself on having strong judgment, and all right, a lot was one of Amazon's leadership principles that was always highlighted as my strength, but never been more wrong in those two situations.
What percentage of their staff are now working remote versus on site?
That's a great question. I don't know, but it's less than there was pre-COVID.
Right. Yeah.
Because before COVID, there were some individuals hired remotely, depending on the orgs they worked in. And it wasn't necessarily measured or scrutinized in any way. And that changed post-pandemic. And so I actually think it's gone down, but I couldn't tell you what the exact percent is.
What's also interesting is that the latest generation of talent, Gen Z, they crave the human connection.
Yeah.
and they want to work with other people because they're sick and tired of looking at a computer screen all day long. And I'm starting to see that shift. I'll give you an example. I do a lot of speaking, public speaking workshops and events at university campuses. And when we have an opportunity for people to show up in person, they come.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
also
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think that's nice because I don't know if that was always the case for my generation, but I think we haven't had the experiences they did. A lot of them probably missed different events throughout their life because of the pandemic that have likely impacted them to have that desire differently than I personally have.
Well, also the fact is that after a while, and I'm starting to see the impact of that, is like enough of the screen.
Yeah.
I need to really talk with a person, be able to interact.
It is different.
Class. Yeah. And have the energy flow. Like I do a lot of presentations, and man, oh man, when I am in front of a live audience, the energy that flows back and forth, and I do games and activities and I do stories with my audience, we have so much fun that no one notices how fast the time goes by.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not going to get that behind a screen. That's a great point. Well, I want to go back. You had mentioned something earlier, and there's a lot of what you're saying that I'm getting ideas on, but one thing stood out to me about AI in the interview process. And I'm curious from your standpoint on the candidate side, what advice are you giving to candidates that you're prepping around if and how they should interact or use AI during their interview process?
That's a good question. Part of the process is do your homework, all right? Use the AI tools, use everything you can to do your research to know about the company. The good points, the bad points, ups and downs in the businesses. Are they in growth mode? Have they cut back on staff? Are they now rehiring? So if they understand the gestalt of where the company is, that helps, all right? And then the key thing is you have to come across as an individual and not a prototype. I'm a Gen Z, I'm a Gen Xer, and because the person, it's the same thing that happens to me. When I get all of these promotions in the email, they're all the same. So you don't want a candidate to come in there and go, you're talking and using the exact same words as AI. And who's going to know it? The person interviewing the candidate. And then what's authentic? What is personal about you? What kind of experiences have you had that make you a good candidate for this job? So back to the who are you? What do you bring to the job? What are your strengths? What can you contribute? How do you work with people? And because the candidate doesn't know what the interviewing manager has already received.
Yeah, totally.
And the interviewing manager goes, okay, it was an AI quote from 3 days ago, and I see exactly the same words. We know it. The candidate doesn't. So that's why if you want to get a few key points, don't use the same words, please.
Yes. Use your voice.
Use the concepts and give it your application. Give an example of how your strengths add value, or what you've done that helped build market share, or what you did that helped expand the team's ability to collaborate together, because those are your stories. There's nobody else who will have the exact same story, and how you contributed for the company and the growth. Then you sound like a human being, a dedicated employee, somebody who is committed to innovation and creativity, because that comes from you. It's not some machine putting the information in your ear.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that active and strategic thinking been my framework that I've been providing guidance on around this is if you think of yourself during the interview process and you get a question and you feel that you need to go to AI or go to your notes based off of what AI has provided you to respond to that, then you're leaning too hard.
Yeah. It has to be part of your DNA. Because I'm a storytelling recruiter, actually, that's where storytelling becomes center field.
Yeah.
Because you can talk about it from a human perspective. Here are the challenges. Here are the opportunities. This is the strategy and tactics I took. These are the results. And this was what came out of the results. So if you frame it as a story, then people will remember. Here's a great example. You have to touch the heart and the brain. If you only touch the heart, you'll remember the emotion, but you won't register the data or the analytics or the results.
Totally.
The two of them together touch the heart and the brain, and people will remember. Let me give you an example. I attended a conference last year, and this economist was doing a presentation. The entire presentation was charts and graphs, charts, graphs. I took a nap. I fell asleep. He couldn't keep my attention because he didn't tell any stories.
Yeah, just numbers.
So the more a candidate can make it personal and professional, related to the business at hand, and keep the interviewer's attention, then you've got 3/4 of it right there.
Yeah.
And then there's engagement.
Yes, I think you hit it on the nose. Yeah. Well, on the topic of AI, I'm curious. There's obviously a lot of noise around AI in the talent acquisition process, but I'm curious how you personally are leveraging AI.
We use it for research. We look at companies, how active they are in the space of growth. So give me the top 10 companies who are in insurance, for example, or who are industry leaders or who are innovators. And see how the human aspect can be enhanced with the quick search process that you can use it and save time. And it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. I'm still in the process of learning myself and always
We all are.
Yeah. I mean, it changes every 2 hours, you know, and, you know, who has authenticity? And you see, fact checking is going to be very important as well, because how authentic is the data and the information? And you have to be really rigorous to make sure that you're getting truth and information that is verifiable.
Yes. I actually had an interesting dialogue around this in particular from a LinkedIn post that I'd shared around my own kind of aha moments with AI. And I just mentioned that I felt like I was delivering more and at a faster rate, but I didn't necessarily feel like I was having to think less or, you know, was just kind of pushing buttons. I felt like I was actually having to be more strategic and more critical. And at times it almost feels like, while I may be executing less, more energy spend required to do that, because you're getting all this information and you're having to intake it, process it, and then stop, right? And audit and question it, because AI can hallucinate. It can make things up. It can pull from sites that, you know, it's not credible data. So I think that piece is really important too, because I think you can easily fall into a trap where, okay, I'm getting answers from Claude or ChatGPT, and let me just go and move quickly and execute.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why, because sometimes it's too quick.
Yes.
When I'm doing projects or presentations or doing research for any kind of presentation and my interns are helping, I said, wait, stop, sleep on it.
Yes.
Let the ideas incubate. Walk away for a walk. Go outside. You know, take a break. Because when it comes at you this fast all the time, I need to process. And I know I'm very deliberate when I'm picking topics for presentations or doing the research. And I say, all right, sleep on it. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to come up with better ideas. And guess what? When do they come? When there's literally water pouring on me in the shower.
Yes, always.
And part of it is you have to be kind to yourself as a human being, and don't treat yourself like a machine. You know, like this all the time. It doesn't work.
That's exactly where I think for myself personally, I'm trying to leverage AI is how do I make myself more human? How do I leverage AI to create more space for me, to remove some of the administrative tactical work that I'm not going to actively be thinking through, but I could take that space and that energy and apply it to somewhere where it's going to create more value, or it's going to allow me to not just intake the information, but actually, is it sticking? Because when you're getting that information that quickly, you're not going to retain it.
Well, it's very interesting that you're bringing it up, because there was an article from the Chicago Tribune that just so happens to be here, April 12th. It says, should you hire a writer or use AI? Here's why journalists still win. So like everybody has to make their own decisions and how it flows with your brain, how you think, how you write. And guess what? Who's your audience?
Yes.
And who are your customers? And how are they going to respond to a headline and to an offer or a job offer or something that will say, oh, that was so funny. And you know what I love to watch? I love to watch stand-up comedians and improv.
Yeah.
You have to think fast.
Yes.
On your feet. And you never know when you're going to get that kind of a question. And there you go.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's something that I feel like has always been communication, right? Has always been a challenge, especially in corporate, based off of what I've seen, and people not always taking the pause, reflecting on what they've written. What's the intention of the message? Who is the intended audience? How is it going to resonate with them? What questions will they have? And just providing really thoughtful communication. And now that feels magnified and happening at a quicker, more noisy rate because it's just populating so quick.
And it's too fast.
Yeah.
How are you going to be able to integrate the information? Wait, think about it. I mean, like some of the presentations that I've been to lately with Chicago Innovation, and one of the universities, the president was there, and she was saying AI is now part of our curriculum. Everybody has to teach some sense of AI in our coursework. Integrated though. It's not the be all and end all. And how do we build on the human connection to make it an asset? Because it can help, but don't put the human behind closed doors.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm glad to hear that that's already curriculum changes, because I've been curious, especially something that we had touched on in our initial conversation and you kind of brought up earlier around the impact to the younger entry-level professional population, who a lot of their roles are being impacted, and we can't create people to backfill the individuals that are being retained at companies, because you don't just become a senior architect or a, senior leader, whatever the role may be. That comes from learning, from experience. So how do we bridge that?
Well, that's why I'm seeing, and I just told my interns this morning, the more you learn different tools, different technologies, languages, for example. I grew up speaking French. I took 1 year of Latin, 2 years of Spanish in high school. I took Hebrew. And the more I am exposed to language, when I speak Spanish, I mean, it comes back and I love practicing it. And people turn around, they're so excited to talk to me. So what languages? Because who are your customers? And what language can you speak to them? And if you're talking to people with different technology skills, the more you can talk to each other in their codes, then it's another way to build trust. I say this to all my candidates. Learn as much as you can in terms of the tools that will add value, because I'll tell you what these days are hiring managers, when they're looking at candidates' resumes, I tell the candidates, put a summary on top. Right underneath it, your skill sets and your technical skills. Don't put them at the bottom. Because if they don't find it right near the top, they'll just chuck out the resume.
That's great advice. I think especially with how screening is changing right now and needing to pass through ATS AI.
Yeah. And you have to be authentic, because here's the other thing. Candidates commonly use their resumes to talk about what they do. That's a job description. What you did is a resume, and it highlights accomplishments, what I like to call case stories, because they make them sticky in the brain. That's the problem when all these AI transformative resumes go through the system. They all sound the same. And the more a candidate goes through a process to prep, and what I call the rule of 80-20, 80% prep, 20% execution. Then when they're interviewing, it just flows because they've gone through the process of prep.
Yes, I think that's so important, because having been a recruiter, a hiring manager, a bar raiser program manager, and seeing all different angles of the interview process, I always could feel when a candidate was overly focused on what they were going to respond with and what they're being asked, and wanting to be perfect, right? And like, it is stressful. It's, you feel like you're being judged, and that's a challenging position to be in, but it makes you lose presence. And then you are so overly focused on what you wanted to say that you miss being authentic, adding real value, and creating connection.
We're talking the same language.
Yeah.
Same. That's the beauty of the human spirit: knowledge, depth, experience, talent. And then what can you share? What can you add? And again, why should they hire you over somebody else? Are you good?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you've captured that perfectly.
Thank you.
And I know you were sharing a little bit about how you're leveraging AI before I derailed us down these other paths. I'm curious, outside of research, if there's anything that you are experimenting with or have recently explored leveraging AI.
Well, I know we're always trying, what's the latest tool? Now I've been told, okay, Lynn, you need to do some more video work. So we're going to see how much more video we can do, because actually the skill sets now are moving towards video production in terms of skill sets for candidates, because the attention span is really short these days and people don't want to read. So are you going to be good with video clips that you can put on different sites online, Instagram, etc., TikTok, and on your own website and on your own LinkedIn profile? So we just talked about this today with the group. And how can you use those AI enhanced video tools? I'm going to be investigating.
Okay, fun. Yeah, that'll be a fun experiment. I'll be watching to see what comes out of it.
Let's see what comes up too. This is really wonderful because I feel like I'm talking to a colleague.
Yeah, I do too. From our initial first 5 seconds of our previous conversation, I knew that I could talk to you forever and just could feel the warmth and your curiosity and your energy. It's contagious.
Well, that's what makes recruiting for me such a fun business, because you're always reinventing yourself. There are business changes. Just to give you an example, when the dot-coms fell and when the market went down, I reinvented the business. I started doing candidates help with their resumes or interviewing tips or reconstructing what direction they wanted to go into. I call the program Empowered Job Seeker, and I still do that. So I always add new products and services, much in the same way that companies need to reinvent themselves. What product? What services? What kind of needs do your customers have? How can you reinvent yourself to keep yourself viable and provide a service?
Yeah. Oh, I think that's great. Yeah. Well, and you mentioned something on our previous call that stuck with me. So I'm glad that you brought that up because it made me think about it. But you mentioned this kind of metamorphosis and that you're feeling this convergence of all of your experiences and knowledge kind of coming together. I'd love it if you could share a little bit more about what that looks like.
For me, it's been the convergence of storytelling and recruiting. And I've always done theater, storytelling performances. I've been now in storytelling competitions. And boy, when you go up on stage and you only have X number of minutes, and I'm going, okay, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do audience participation. And the audience responds, and we're having so much fun, and we're in the zone together. So the more I've done and grown my own storytelling skills and competed in competitions, and I do performances and stuff like that, different age groups, the more I feel like this is part of my DNA. I'm at this point in my life where I teach my candidates how to tell their stories when they interview. They sound more authentic, more sincere, more human, and they completely separate themselves from their competition. Here's another tip. Do you know how many times candidates go, and so?
Like, well.
Awful. So when candidates are interviewing with me, I go, check, 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 check. You know how many times you said, and I use my storytelling training to train my candidates on how to interview better.
Yes.
That way it flows out of them and it doesn't sound like they have broken speech patterns. And that way they sound more confident as well. That directly comes out of storytelling.
Yes. And now you can use AI to count those ums for you. Just get a little automated ticker.
Well, it's a matter of also developing a trusted relationship.
Yes.
Here's something else. Like when I do this with my candidates or people who come for career consulting, I ask, can I give you some feedback?
Yeah.
Because somebody's going to feel like, who the hell is she giving me all this stuff? And I don't like her. And how dare she? So you have to create a trusted relationship so that the candidate trust me, and
Yeah.
I'm doing what I do best to make them the best in class. And
Yes.
some of these are old patterns which we've inherited, and they become so much a part of our regular speech patterns that you're not even aware of it. Give you an
Totally.
example. I grew up in Canada. At the end of sentences in Canada, we used
They-
to say, yay, see?
I do love that, though. I find it very endearing.
Yeah. Well, when I moved to the States and I would say A at the end of a sentence, Americans would look at me and go, B, C, D. It's like, oh, man. And I
Funny.
stopped using A.
Yeah.
It wasn't repeated. I didn't hear it on a regular, ongoing basis. So it just went away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how we notice certain things and adapt, but also on the reverse of that, sometimes are totally oblivious to certain things that we're doing and need that feedback. But I really like the simple question, because I think a lot of times, even for myself, having been, a manager for years, leading teams, doing performance reviews, sometimes I still find myself overthinking, how do I open up the feedback? I want to be helpful. I want to add value for this person. How do I open that door? So just a simple, can I share some feedback? Because I know I think feedback is a gift, but I know it can be harder to receive.
If it's done with compassion, if somebody is sticking a knife in you, and I really hate when you do this, it's like, oh, and this would be so much stronger if you communicated this way, or don't do
Yes.
uptalk. You know about uptalk? It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
So when people do uptalk, they're questioning what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
It leads people to doubt what they're saying. Part of that is modulate your speech.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's, again, those little things that when you're preparing for an interview or, doing public speaking, there's so much that you're trying to think about and capture. And a lot of times you just need to slow it down and take a deep breath and come back into your body is a way that I kind of feel like I just need to take a step back and not overthink it and enjoy the moment.
And take a break and then come back to it later. Like I said earlier, take a nap, go to sleep at night, come in the morning, you'll come refreshed, and be kind to yourself. Because if you're kind to yourself, guess what? You'll be kind with other people. Because when you see people struggling, I understand. I know exactly what you're going through right now. It's okay.
Yes. And
Take a deep breath.
explaining the why with your feedback. I think you gave two really nice examples of not just providing feedback, but helping the individual understand why it matters and why it's important versus, I just didn't like that or don't do that. Because then I think that's where the lines get blurred too, of even if the intention is even if it's well-intended, that it feels personal at times versus being knowledge or experience or data-based.
Yeah, and you don't want to attack somebody. You want to give them feedback. Oh, here's something. I'm very committed to your growth.
Yeah,
I want
I
you
like
to
that.
succeed. And when you frame it that way, it's sincere.
Yeah.
You're talking from the heart. And I've seen it happen over and over again. I was like, I'm really committed to your success. I'm
Yeah.
here for you.
I like
And
that.
guess what? I do the same thing. I walk around with my cell phone and I practice in front of the mirror and I see how many times, or I hear how many times I do things that might be off, and I
Yeah.
practice. And the
Yeah.
more we practice, the better.
For sure. Yes. Well, speaking of success, you have had quite a bit of success. You've been at this many years and you've just won multiple awards. I'm curious what's next for you and what's your vision for the future?
My vision for the future is keep learning, be curious, keep healthy,
Yes.
keep contributing, because the more I'm curious and can integrate stuff into my life, whether it's performing, fitness, storytelling, seeing the talent in front of me. Like, I love doing presentations.
Yeah.
When I do a presentation on stage or performing and get the audience involved, it is joy. And there's
I
that.
want to be in your audience. I want you to be doing. I'm like, where do I sign up? Where are you presenting next?
Actually, I'm doing some presentations coming up.
I
And
bet.
it's like, I don't say no. I say yes.
Yeah.
And yes, and like Second City.
Yes.
And it brings me such a sense of joy, and it passes on from one generation to the next, to students, to colleagues. And guess what? I get excited.
Yeah, it seems like it
energy.
really energizes you.
Yeah. And I then fly for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And then
But
I
how
talk.
incredible that you found that, because I think a lot of times, individuals don't know what energizes them or maybe aren't able to always do what energizes them. And I think you really recharge your battery with it. But beyond that, you're paying it forward. You're giving back, you're educating, you're engaging. And I think it's just really beautiful.
It brings so much joy to me. And you know what's very interesting? I was doing this from the age of 5.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of taking it on a deeper level as I grew up, and I wanted to be an actress and what are you going to do to live and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I found a way to integrate the performing arts into business, into storytelling, to leading workshops. And that for me is a wonderful way to contribute.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like I've gained a lot from our interactions and hope that there will be many more of them.
Well, you have been a huge contributor to my life. And the fact that we have this kind of a conversation, we're meeting together, we're exchanging ideas, energy. And then I go, check, she's a friend for life.
For sure. I know after our initial call ended, I just had all of these ideas and wanted to do all of these things and just felt very energized and very excited about what we do in recruiting and the future of recruiting. And new question that brings me to that I'm going to be asking people, because I recently watched a documentary and it gave me the idea for this question. I'm curious from you if you are feeling optimistic about the future of work in an AI world.
That's a great question. The key thing is we're always adapting and changing. And think about the human component. At a certain point, people are going to say, I need this.
Mm-hmm.
This works for me. This doesn't work for me. And they're sending messages. So if you think about the boomer generation, the boomers that are retiring, they're going to have, for every boomer that retires, 2 candidates will be trying to get that person's job in the generation below them.
Yeah.
So we've gone through so many different areas of work, how we work, when we work, where we work, with computers, without computers. And now there's this whole rebellion. People are saying, I've had enough of the computer. I want to talk to you. I'm seeing now events at the theaters when you're not allowed to turn on your phones.
Yeah.
And people are saying, if you come to a house for dinner, no phones.
Yeah.
So people are starting to regulate real time with people, and we're focusing on real people and real time, and let's put all the toys away that are electronic.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that we're going to redefine how we relate, how we work together, so that we weave in the different tools so that we can be the better of it. And I'm not quite sure how that's going to look quite yet, but that's the discovery process that we're all going to be a part of.
Yes.
And that's going to be the challenge and also the joy. And part of it is going to be the discovery process.
Yes.
Remember what renaissance is. Naissance is a French word for birth. Renaissance is rebirth. So and after every pandemic, there has always been a renaissance.
Yeah.
So what the original AI may be will probably shift into a new kind of working model that respects humanity.
I love that. I am very much with that outlook, and I'm excited to see the evolution of this unique time.
Let it come to be.
Yes. Well, Lynn, I'm so grateful for your time. I don't want to keep you over what I committed, but is there anything else you would like to leave the audience with?
Actually, because I spoke French growing up, I like to say to everybody, au revoir, which means until I see you again.
Yes.
Because there are always opportunities for us to click, to connect, and to keep the conversations going. So there, CCC, click, connect, conversation.
I love that. That's going to stick with me. Well, thank you so much, Lynn. I'm so grateful for your time. And as always, really enjoyed the conversation and look forward to seeing what's to come next.
Here's to more. Be in touch.
Thank you for listening to Catalyst Chats. Like, share, and don't forget to follow.